is not. I'd like to pass those out to the jury if we can, Your Honor. Let me get a look at those.
They can be, the transcript can be passed out. Although it is, Mr. Cochran,
I'm sorry.
given the time it will take to pass it out and collect it, it is something we can't put on the album.
Well, it'll be up on the screen also, but at some point, I'd like to mark it, Your Honor, that there's the next, as our next.
I'd like to see it, if I may.
Do you have a copy?
Well, he has a copy. Mr. Douglas gave him a copy, so he can look at it, read his own copy. May I mark that as our next, Your Honor?
1367.
1367. All right. Now, let me just inquire, Your Honor, if I might. I'd like to mark as the defendant's next 1368 as the tape that Mr. Harris will be playing.
Yes.
Mr. Harris has some speakers, Your Honor. He's going to move at this point, if the court pleases. Let me ask a question while he's doing that, Your Honor. Now, with regard to, may I give her an excerpt, Your Honor, one of the excerpts?
Yes.
Do you have one up
I've got mine.
there? You're keeping it. That's good, Your Honor.
Thank you.
With regard to these two excerpts, you've shared with us there's some 42 or more instances where he uses this offensive word. This first one, with regard to this first instance that we're going to be seeing shortly, can you give us some background? I'll read it, Your Honor, and ask her to give us some background regarding this. In this particular one, I believe this is one where it was taped over, and we have just a transcript. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And with the question, the quote by Furman is, "We have no niggers where I grew up." Do you recall him saying that?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what he said?
Yes.
And what tape was that where he made that statement?
That was during our first interview.
And that was the one you described for the jury as taped over?
The first taped interview, April 2nd, 1985.
And with regard to that particular one, about having no African Americans where he grew up, can you compare that with the other 42 others from a standpoint of how he used that word and that compared to the others?
It's a vague question as
Well,
well, and I don't know that anybody could really answer that question.
Let me try again. Okay?
Rephrase the question.
Okay. With regard to this instance where we have no blank where I grew up, you have that in mind?
Yes.
Can you compare that with the other 42 times or so that he used this in the course of your interviews? If there any difference between how I used the term there and the other 42 times or so?
Objection. This makes the testimony.
Okay, you may answer.
Yes, there's a significant difference here. This particular example is the least offensive and inflammatory in comparison to the others.
All right. Now,
All right. I'm going to strike that answer. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a judgment that is not appropriate at this point in time. You're to disregard that last question and answer. Next question.
All right, Your Honor. With regard to, let's move down to the second incident we've been allowed to use that for Furman speaking. They don't do anything. They don't go out there and initiate a contact with some 6'5" nigger that's been in prison for 7 years pumping weights. Do you recall Mr. Furman saying that to you at some point?
Yes, however, I believe...
Next question.
You do recall that? And that is on tape, is it not?
Excuse me.
All right. I understand. Let me just look at my question, Ms. McKinny. Do you recall that being said, Ms. McKinny?
I recall that being said,
Okay.
yes.
And was that said, were you present during that interview?
Yes.
All right. And was that an interview where you had another person present with you, a Miss Lori Diaz?
Yes.
All right. And you were present there, is that correct?
Yes.
And you heard Detective Furman, in interacting with Lori Diaz, make the statement I just read. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Is that what you wanted to tell us?
Yes, that is.
All right. And if you were to see these, hear this on tape, would you be able to identify Mr. Furman's voice?
Certainly.
And would you, I don't know if we're going to hear Ms. Diaz's voice or not, but you could identify his voice. Is that correct?
And Ms. Diaz's as well.
Okay. Very well, Your Honor. If the court pleases, may we have Mr. Harris put up the, I want to go back and ask a question regarding the first one. It's not on tape. Then we'll have Mr. Harris play that.
May I have
With-
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Sorry.
interrupt.
Go ahead.
May I have an opportunity to hear what they're going to play, given the possibility of other voices on the tape?
No, I think we've all had sufficient opportunity at this point, Mr. Darden.
With,
All right, Mr. Harris, do you have your headphones available there? All right, would you play that quickly for Mr. Darden, please?
while he's doing that, can we pass out the excerpt, Chairman, while he's doing it? May I approach?
You may. Do you have a copy for, All right, Deputy Bashmakian, would you hand those out to the jury, please? Mr. Darden, have you heard that excerpt? Mr. Cochran, juror number 98 is indicating that she has two of the same pages. Do you have any other copies? All right, Mr. Darden, would you change that with juror number? Give it to Deputy Bashmakian, please. Thank you.
Your Honor, apparently had it queued up and he's having trouble finding it now, but he'll get it. You got it? Okay.
Anything else you can ask Ms. McKinney at this point?
I can, Your Honor, but I want to just make sure if I can just take care of this. I have a couple other questions I can ask you, Your Honor, while he's doing that. Ms. McKinney, did Mr. Furman ever at any time apologize to you for the way in which he used this word, this N-word?
Sustained.
has found it. He's indicating it's not coming through his headphones. That's the problem.
Well, I'd like to have Mr. Darden have the opportunity to, do we have to do this without the headphones? In other words, he can't cue it up just on a system through his headphones?
Is that right? Yes. Can I cue it up without the headphones? Or with the headphones? It's not playing through the headphones. It's the problem. It'll take less than a minute, Your Honor.
All right, let me ask the jurors to step back into the jury room for a few moments. Record to reflect the jury is withdrawn from the courtroom. Mr. Harris, you want to play that for Mr. Darden, please? I'm sorry?
Gonna play it out loud?
They don't do anything. They don't go out and initiate contact for 6:45. Maybe it's been a perfect for 7-year conflict by
All right, Mr. Darden. Do you recollect the excerpt?
I believe I've heard it before, yeah.
They don't do anything.
All right, let's have the jurors, please. Deputy McNair. I'm sorry? 5:30.
Let's have a foundational objection, and that is the date of that,
The dates are not indicated.
Do ask a foundational question.
Oh, I did already. The first one's in April of 1985, and the second one, you know the
This
second
one, just this one in particular.
Okay, do you know when the second one was?
Yeah.
May I approach you?
Ladies and gentlemen, be seated. Mr. Cochran, you may conclude for the day.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. May I ask a couple of foundation questions, and we'll play it? Mr. McKinney, Mr. Furman said, we have no niggers where I grew up. I think you've indicated that was in the early part of 1985?
Yes.
All right. And the statement about prison and 6'5" people, when was that?
That was approximately the same time, later in that month of April or possibly in the beginning of May
Of 1985?
of 1985, yes.
All right, Ms. Harris, are you ready? All right, let's start with the one that does not have a tape. Here. Hold that there. In the course of the times that you interviewed this man, did you find out where he had grown up?
In Washington State.
Was this discussion come about during the discussion where he actually grew up and lived?
Yes.
Is that an accurate statement, ma'am?
Yes.
They don't do anything. They don't go out and initiate contact from 6'5", and maybe it's been a perfect reception for compromise.
You recognize the voice of the person who was saying they don't do anything, they don't go out there and initiate a contact? Some 6'5" nigger who's been in prison for 7 years pumping weights. Who said that?
Officer Mark Furman.
And when did he say that?
In April or early May of 1985.
And that was his voice? Is that right?
Yes.
No doubt about it?
No doubt about it.
Perhaps you could point to the place, Your Honor. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the day at this time. Please remember all my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. We'll stand in recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Ms. McKinney, you may step down. You're ordered to come back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
All right. Also, Deputy Bashmakian, would you collect all of the tape transcripts? May I ask the jurors to pass that all down? All right, let me see counsel without the court reporter, please.
Please declare report.